Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
This is very impactful if you or somebody you know is a company, a group, and you are self-insured. You offer insurance to your employees. You know, it's a big expenditure, number one, but there's also a lot going on in terms of the claims, how much you're paying. There's actually a company out there. This guy is amazing in recovering a lot of that, looking at insurance fraud that's taking place, money that you don't need to be paying as a business owner or a leader in a company. And we're going to talk with him today about all of this. Scott Hettesheimer joins us on the program. Welcome back. How are you?
Very good, Steve. Thank you.
I'm looking on your website, and I have to pull this out because it's mind blowing. But in a year or so ago, employers burned $1,200,000,000,000 in healthcare overcharging fraud. This is not just what you've had to pay to provide insurance for your employees. This is fraud. This number, $1,200,000,000,000. What is going on? This is the stuff that the rest of us don't really know about. Before we even dig in, tell us about what's going on here in the insurance world.
Well, in the insurance world, which I really don't play that much in the insurance world. I'm not trying to become agent for a bunch of new groups. I want to work with your agent or find you a new agent that would be more effective for you. What I do, I'm very disruptive in the marketplace. I pull back the curtain, if you will, and I expose overcharging, fraud, abuse. Very simply, we could consolidate all these terms into theft. You have entities, Mr. Employer, Mr. CFO. You have entities out there in the healthcare delivery system that their software, their billing procedures are designed to overcharge you, and they've been doing this forever. Steve was correct. 1,200,400,000,000,000 in overcharging. We don't have the numbers for 2023 yet, but we're looking at $4,700,000,000,000 in healthcare spend. Now, that is what employers and their employees who contribute to premium. That's all the money out of their pocket. All this money comes from we the people. This isn't insurance company money. This isn't government money. This is employees' money. This is employers' money. And it's a big deal.
Wow.
So yeah, my business, I'm a consultant, and we're so confident in what we do, we have no charge for any of our services up front. We do all of our analytics, all the data research, all the deep dive into your healthcare claims. We do that at our cost, and unique for our service as far as the medical claims review and recovery. We take a percent of what we recover. So if we're not successful in first finding money and recovering that money for you, putting that money back into your bank account, we don't get paid. So yeah, we have a
I want to just jump in here right now, Scott, and illustrate your point. You don't charge initially, you take a percentage, but the reason you do that is you're quite confident that companies are being, if you will, ripped off because it's happening so often that for the most part, when you work with a company and you just look at the lay of the land, how many employees, et cetera, you're probably going to find something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be taking that time to, at your expense, go through all the data mining and all of that. And that just illustrates how prevalent this fraud is right now.
You're absolutely correct. I don't know if we can say 100% of the time we will find overcharging, fraud, abuse. I don't know if we can say that. because we haven't looked at everybody's account. But I can say in 100% of the accounts we've looked at to date, which is several years worth, and we go back 3 years for each employer. 100% of the time, we have found abuse. We have found overcharging. So yes, we are confident. We're good at what we do. If we weren't good at what we do, we would have to charge a fee for what we do. So we don't have to charge a fee for what we do. We just share in the recovery. So, for an employer, that creates a no-brainer. There's no cost, nothing. There's no obligation, there's no fine print that says if we don't find money, you still have to pay us a minimum of this. We don't have that. Our minimum is zero. You owe us nothing. Yeah, it's just I guess it's a sad reality of where we are in our healthcare delivery system, and
Well,
how things are billed.
it's also a no-brainer. It's also a no-brainer. Why would you not have somebody like you dig in uh, and start looking? Because you're getting ripped off, not you. The company is getting ripped off. Why not just have somebody? There's no harm done in you looking in with a claims review and recovery program. Why don't we look at that? Let's take us through that and what's involved in that program.
Sure. First of all, if you were to Google claim auditing, you would find many different firms wanting, or offering to audit your claims. Well, auditing your claims, I look at that as a generic term, like calling all tissues Kleenex or something like that. It's very generic. And it's like getting your high school GED or something. Compared to us, we're working with a PhD. There's just no comparison in our what we call retrospective medical claims review and somebody else's claim auditing. The other people out there, they're restricted in what they can audit. You have a network. You have a network on your card. You have a logo for Cigna, Aetna, Anthem, Blue Cross, whatever, and that identifies the doctors that you can go to in the hospitals. Because of that, many of these administrators, many of these claim auditing folks that are in the marketplace cannot explore some of these bills because of the network relationships. Many times they have cutoffs. It may have to be $100,000 minimum bill. We audit 100%. If it's a hospital bill and it's $3,000, we'll audit it. We don't require a minimum of $100,000. So our service is very different right there, but that's not the only difference. We operate 100% transparent. We verify through evidence everything we do, and all of our work is conducted to a fiduciary standard. None of the other competitors, if you will, do that. And then our recovery, well, they're not doing recovery. Our recovery not only finds money for the plan, the employer, we find money for the patient. The patient would be the employee or the dependent of the employee that had the hospital stay. Many times we recover money that they have spent out of pocket. So our recovery goes to whoever it is that is supposed to get it, the patient, the employer. Between those two, that's 100% of the money. So our service is not comparable to anybody else out there. And again, most of these other folks, they're also charging a fee up front to begin a claim audit process where we don't.
Again, this is a no-brainer. Why? Uh, you could be. Oh, let's. All right. Before we continue with some of the things with the claims review and recovery program, how does, Scott, the process work? You dig in, you find fraud, you've identified it. Let's say there's tens of thousands of dollars in claims that should not have been there and were paid out by a company, by a company that brought you in. What happens there? How does that recovery process take place?
Uh, Good question, Steve. Very good question. We want to can make this as simple as possible for an employer. So in order to get started with us, the employer, the plan sponsor, would have to forward to us, we request 3 years of claims history, paid claims history. And what happens with that is that's just transmitted to us. So we take that, load it into our system, and go to work. The employer doesn't have to do anything. All they have to do is forward us the data. They have an agreement that they sign with us, and most of that is privacy protected disclosures and things like that.
Mhm.
But all they have to do is give us their data. We're done with them at that point. And when you say, we request that employers have a minimum of 500 employees on the plan. Let's say the group has 7,000 employees, and we go back 3 years, so we're getting 36 months of claims. We would probably have $300 million of paid claims. You said tens of thousands. We find millions of dollars in recovery. Millions.
I was just picking one company, just I don't know how large that company would be, so I wanted to be somewhat conservative. Give us an example. Pick one that you worked with in the last year, and what you recovered or discovered for them.
Sure. Well, we'll stick with that 7,000 man group. That's over 300 million in paid claims over 36 months. We found over $30 million. We recovered over $30 million, which was about 7% of their claims, paid claims. HHS, Health and Human Services, they identify that abuse like this is in the neighborhood of 25%. So that's where that number you recited earlier was generated from, 25% of the 4.4, 4.7 trillion of paid claims. So out of that 25%, well, our number of recovery for this particular group was about 7%, and it was about $30 million. That was the gross recovery.
Wow. And describe the company or companies involved in this.
You mean the company that do the number crunching, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, yeah. And initially, who brought you in to make this discovery?
Well, actually, I'm not going to share the name of the company in
No,
a
not at all. This is
social platform.
all confidential. When I say that, I mean the makeup, X amount of employees, textile company. If you want to share that, doesn't matter.
Sure.
Just a snapshot profile.
Well, the company that I'm contracted with that does all the number crunching, they've been in this healthcare space, um, gosh, 15, 20 years maybe. And they have in their database billions of dollars of paid claims, billions and billions of dollars of paid claims. So their data is 100% credible. It's all good data. It's not like data that maybe comes from United Healthcare or Humana or any of these legacy carriers. It's skewed, I guess is a polite way to put it. No, this is real credible data, and it's all for comparative purposes. Plus, they do adjudication of claims. For those of you that don't know what that means, they actually process claims that come in from a hospital or a physician, a provider. So they'll get that claim and they'll compare it, ICD-10 codes, CPT codes, There's over 80,000 codes in the marketplace today. Each code represents a different medical procedure. And many of these almost every medical procedure will have 6, 7, 8 combined codes that will go with it. It's bundled. So that is, yeah, that's the kind of, it's a very large company, and maybe the largest in the United States, as far as their market share goes.
Interesting. Uh, the rest of us had no idea this was going on. And Scott, do you find that a lot of companies are floored when you come back with your report of what was happening with these claims?
Absolutely, every one of them. Steve, I have a special delivery I have to catch at the front door.
Oh,
Give me.
Then
They didn't announce themselves, and
you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a very short break. We will come back and dig back into this. Yeah, this is
yeah,
fascinating.
I'll be here in about 30 seconds, I hope.
All right, we're coming right back.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.
And we're back talking with Scott, who is an amazing guy in recovering fraudulent claims for companies that offer insurance to their employees. We just took a break because he had a special delivery at the door. That's how mindful he is. That's how important that it is for his clients. Who are you helping, Scott? If you had 5 people come in today and said, this is the company that I have, the number of employees, who is like the perfect fit for you to work with?
Sure. First of all, my website is theabdi.com, and my direct line is 513-720-4400. I basically talk to everybody, Steve. But if an employer is fully insured, they've got no chance in the marketplace in recovering, overcharging, or benefiting from reducing their consumed healthcare costs. They've got no chance. They're all of their money, all of their coverage is pooled. So you're with thousands of other employers, and you're paying for their experience. You're paying for their healthcare as well. That's the way it is when you're pooled. That's the way it is when you're fully insured. So we have a software. We have a service. I guess you'd say we have several services. We have the biggest, most popular is the retrospective medical claims review, and along with that is a review of your pharmacy spend, because we find maybe 35% overcharging there 99% of the time. But for your smaller employers that do not have 500 employees, or they're still fully insured, we have a software package that we loaded up with your data, and it can predict and I guess forecast whether or not becoming self-insured will benefit you. It's a risk decision support service. So what we do is, again, after collecting the data, we identify your risk along with, because of our predictive modeling capabilities. And and predictive modeling, I have a couple different predictive modeling, I guess you'd say arrangements. The biggest is with, or the most common is with Johns Hopkins. And, I use their predictive modeler. But the biggest one in the world is probably Med AI, but nobody has name recognition with them. Second biggest is probably Johns Hopkins. But those are the types of, companies that are behind the services that I put together. Everybody's credible. Everybody's been doing this. Everybody has name recognition with Johns Hopkins. So, when you're talking about who we can help, we can literally help a fully insured employer with just maybe 10 employees.
Wow.
And we can still identify whether this strategy be going to a self-insured product would be risk acceptable for them. Again, I don't want to be your agent. I'll find you an agent if you need an agent or if you want to replace your agent. But I do business nationwide. I don't want to maintain insurance licenses in all 50 states.
Sure.
And I could not physically visit with an employer, and that would probably be a disservice. You need a local agent to service your group health plan. You have open enrollment meetings, you have all kinds of stuff. So, I work with agents. I'll find you an agent. I don't want to be your agent. Okay. And I do all of this work. We do all this work without being an agent. So, that's just the way I chose to morph my business, I guess.
It's an eye-opener.
So, yeah, we can help everybody out there if it's a group plan.
Yeah. Eye-opener for, I think, of a lot of employers and companies, small to large. You got to look at this stuff. This is the guy to do it. Doesn't cost you anything up front. Take a percentage once they find what's going on there. And based on what we've talked about, Scott, got to believe you're going to find stuff. How do we find you online?
Yes, TheABDI.com. Company is Advanced Benefit Design Institute. That's also a URL, advancedbenefitdesigninstitute.com. We have several different URLs that'll take you to the same site, but the easiest one is just simply theabdi.com. The phone number I'll give you, this is not an automated system. I don't use them. Used them maybe 10, 15 years ago. I take every call. I answer every call myself. So this is my direct line, and it's 513-720-4400. I do have a voicemail box, but my goal is to answer every call as it comes in. That's the kind of service I want, and that's the kind of service we deliver.
Appreciate you being here today. Again, an eye-opener for a lot of companies. And thanks for all the details, Scott. Look forward to getting together again soon.
Yes, we're on for next week.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great weekend.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.